Hi, my name is Liesl Vosika, and for nearly 20 years, I've homeschooled our 4 kids. When I talk to new parents, I hear cries of, I'm confused, it's chaos, I'm frustrated, and they feel like a failure. So over those 20 years, I created a system because I was frustrated and because I needed to find some type of order in all of this chaos. There are about 2.5 million children regularly homeschooled in the U.S. Their reasons vary. Nearly 32% are concerned about school environments, bullying, and violence. Nearly 30% do it to provide a religious or moral instruction. And nearly 17% are dissatisfied with the academics of the schools. And nearly 7% of children that are homeschooled is because they have a physical or a mental health problem. And I believe that home educating a child with special needs or these health issues is one of the fastest growing subgroups of the homeschooling community. Over the years, I've talked with lots of parents that are wanting to homeschool their kids, and they're not sure about their next steps, their first steps into, or how to help their kids succeed. And it's daunting. It's a daunting task. There's a lot of frustration. There can be a lot of chaos. And even when I started years ago, I loved teaching, and I didn't feel like that was going to be an issue as much, but I had a difficulty managing all of it. Some of the biggest challenges that I faced is staying planned and organized. As time went on, there was a point in time with all 4 kids, I had like 50 subjects that I was organizing weekly for all spread out across these 4 kids, from everything from books and curriculum and literature that I was having them read. And it was hard to just finding it. Finding where we left off, finding where we're going to go next, and keeping things together. The subjects were easily forgotten and neglected, and then Dad wanted to see where the kids were and what they were working on, and so staying organized and planned and organized was important. But I had very few resources on how to do that. Another challenge was to stay disciplined and accountable. So I would ask myself, what did I assign this kid on this? Or how long ago did I assign it to them? And where did we leave off? And then Dad assigned you what? And so there was a lot of things that kids I would assign, and they would never get accomplished, and there was no accountability, there was no follow-up, and so that was the other issue that I was facing. I also was asked by parents that had the difficulty of that the child lived in 2 different households. That was one of the things that when they weren't accountable, because one parent didn't know what the other parent was asking them to do, and when they were half at one house and half at the other, it was hard for them to kind of keep track. Also, another challenge was to stay in the midst of this whole thing is to stay flexible and creative. And we lived over those 20 years, we lived in 9 different homes. We lived in 3 different states. And so moving as often as we did, you just kind of pick everything up and you go, and then it's just chaos when you got there. So I discovered that life is really organic, and children are organic, and life just happens sometimes, and we have to make adjustments, and we have to ditch one thing and add another. Sometimes the curriculum doesn't work for a child, and so we're switching that out. Or you have very creative children. They want to add something to the picture and add some contribution so that they can, so they have goals of their own. And so part of it was staying flexible and creative. In order to solve all these problems and challenges, I created what we called the chart system. It was manual, and then it moved to a kind of Excel spreadsheets, but it progressed and got better and better over the next 20 years as we experimented with and trial and error, and something would work and then it wouldn't, and so we would change it. It became the central management program and the management of all of the curriculum and all of the education in the house. If it didn't get put on the charts, it usually got forgotten. As I was teaching all 4 kids, I was juggling quite a few subjects, and it was taking me up to 8 hours a week just in planning before I started this. I would just, going through and pulling out books and stuff. And with this method, I didn't have to pull out any books, and everything was planned. So I went from about 8 hours a week to a half an hour a week for all kids. And that I really enjoyed. The benefits, so there was less chaos and a lot more control. So there was less forgetting. And the kids knew what was expected of them, which reduced a lot of the stress level of the unknown, of how a week plays out. There was a more accountability on myself and my kids. And I got a snapshot of the progress of how I was progressing as a teacher, how my kids were progressing as students. And then my husband was able to look at that and see how they were progressing. The other thing that this had to be flexible. It had to be adaptable, and it had to be customizable to each child. And it was kind of like a build their education. So you're building their education out of scratch, pulling things in. So I had to be able to pull things in, and so I did. I pulled different ideas, different programs, and things like that to pull in so that I created their education. It needed to be able to work at their own pace, and so this actually helps them to work at their own pace. It had to be easily changeable, and so this is easily changeable. This was also beneficial for goal-making skills. So it taught myself how to set goals, and help my kids how to set their own goals and help them be a part of this goal setting. It saved me time and money. I saved money because there was curriculum that I had bought that never got used because it just never got onto the schedule or never got into the play. We love to have the opportunity to improve this system, to automate it, to put it online, to get it onto a web base so that we can actually help a lot more people. When I've helped people do this, they have told me how much easier their lives were and their education was with this program. When they weren't doing the weekly charts, it seemed like nothing got done. And that was the same with me. If I didn't do the weekly charts, it's kind of like everything kind of fell apart, but I could get right back on. If I kind of missed a week or two, you just kind of get right back on, and then you just start doing it again. But I would love to share this with all of those out there. And when I'm telling people about how I've done my home education with my kids, I find that this ends up becoming the very thing that they go, what? What did you do? How did you do that? And they're really interested because it is kind of the core of how to manage everything. I hope that this has been helpful. I look forward to answering questions and talking more about this and how that I can help others in this path. And thank you for your time.